Good evening. I'm Obasi and Lovu, and this is Africa Ascending. Tonight, we begin with a developing story out of northern Nigeria, a coordinated military strike carried out on Christmas Day against ISIS linked camps near the Niger border. To help us understand what happened and what it means for the region, we turn now to our correspondent, Tamsin Clark, who has been following this story closely. Tamsin, walk us through the details.
On Christmas Day 2025, a joint US-Nigerian military operation struck militant camps linked to ISIS in northwestern Nigeria, a region that has seen a surge in extremist activity over the past year. The operation was the result of months of intelligence gathering and close cooperation between the two nations' armed forces, who had been tracking the movements of jihadist groups across the Sahel. This marked a new phase in the fight against jihadist expansion in the Sahel, a vast and volatile region where borders are porous and militant groups exploit local grievances to gain ground. The pre-dawn missile strikes, authorized by Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and announced by US President Donald Trump, targeted an extremist enclave near the Niger border. The operation was carefully timed to catch militants off guard, minimizing civilian casualties while maximizing impact on the group's leadership and infrastructure. The operation's timing, Christmas, sent a symbolic message. For the US, it was a stand against the persecution of Christians, a gesture meant to reassure both domestic and international audiences of America's commitment to religious freedom and the protection of vulnerable communities. For Nigeria, it was a demonstration of sovereignty and partnership, showing the world that the country could lead in the fight against terror while working alongside powerful allies. Advanced US naval assets launched missiles from afar, highlighting the technological gap between Western militaries and local forces, and sending a clear warning to other extremist groups in the region that international intervention could be swift and decisive. The announcement, made via social media by the American president, contrasted with Nigeria's more measured, collaborative messaging, reflecting the different political climates and communication strategies of the two nations. This strike signaled a turning point in Nigeria's struggle with insurgency, as ISIS-linked violence, once concentrated in the northeast, began to spread into new regions, threatening to destabilize even more communities and challenge the government's control. As the world watched, the operation raised urgent questions about the future of counterterrorism in Africa, the role of international partnerships, and the ongoing challenge of protecting civilians in an increasingly complex conflict zone. The operation began in the vast and unpredictable waters of the Gulf of Guinea, a region long known for its strategic importance and complex maritime activity. Here, the US Navy prepared for a mission that would span hundreds of kilometers and cross international borders. From the deck of a US Navy vessel, Tomahawk cruise missiles were launched with precision, their trajectories carefully calculated to reach targets far inland. The launch was the culmination of weeks of planning and coordination between American and Allied forces. Animated maps tracked the missiles' path as they arced from the Gulf, crossing the West African coast and heading deep into Sokoto State, Nigeria, a region marked by both its remoteness and its recent instability. These missiles flew at treetop level, skimming the landscape to avoid radar detection. Their journey was guided by months of painstaking intelligence work, with analysts monitoring every stage to ensure accuracy and minimize risk. Sokoto's porous border with Niger, once bustling with traders and migrants, had become a dangerous corridor for jihadist fighters. The 2023 coup in Niger had dismantled joint security patrols, leaving the region vulnerable to infiltration and lawlessness. The Bauni Forest, a dense and remote expanse in Tangaza, was chosen as the primary target area. Its isolation made it an ideal hideout for militant camps, far from the reach of local authorities and well away from civilian populations. Years of unchecked banditry and violence had left the region lawless, creating a power vacuum. The ISIS-affiliated Lakurawa group exploited this chaos, entrenching itself in the countryside and establishing fortified camps. The selection of targets was not random. Nigerian intelligence officials, working closely with US partners, provided detailed information on militant movements, camp locations, and potential risks to civilians. At least 4 impact sites were confirmed in the aftermath, each one a known Lakurawa hub. satellite imagery, and on-the-ground reports verified the destruction of active militant infrastructure. The operation's success depended on precise, up-to-date intelligence and careful planning. Every step was taken to neutralize militants while sparing innocent lives, reflecting a commitment to both security and humanitarian principles. Lakurawa, the group targeted in the strike, is a key ISIS affiliate in Nigeria's northwest, expanding jihadist influence beyond the northeast. Ties to extremist networks in Mali and Niger make their presence in Sokoto a strategic move for ISIS. Initially welcomed by locals desperate for protection from bandits, Lakurawa soon imposed brutal Sharia law and became a greater menace. They recruit disillusioned youth, exploiting poverty and weak governance to embed themselves in communities. Their foothold in Sokoto enables the flow of fighters and weapons across borders, strengthening the regional jihadist network. The 2023 Niger coup gave them space to consolidate power. The Christmas Day strike was a direct response to this growing cross-border threat. The Christmas Day strike was the result of months of US-Nigerian security cooperation and intelligence sharing. Nigerian operatives mapped the Lakurawa network, identifying leaders and camp locations in the Bauni forest. US agencies contributed satellite imagery and signals intelligence, fusing local and technical data for a precise operation. President Tinubu's approval ensured the mission respected Nigerian sovereignty while leveraging US firepower. Sea-launched Tomahawk missiles allowed the US to strike from a distance, minimizing risk to personnel and civilians. Nigerian forces likely secured the area and assessed damage, while the US provided precision strikes. This division of labor played to each partner's strengths, local knowledge and global reach. The operation set a model for future counter-terrorism cooperation in Africa. In the aftermath of the strike, the United States and Nigeria presented sharply divergent narratives to the world, each seeking to shape public perception and international opinion in their favor. The tension was palpable, not just in diplomatic circles, but also in the way each government addressed its own citizens and the global community. President Trump quickly took to social media, declaring a decisive victory. He framed the mission as a bold defense of Christians under threat, and as a powerful demonstration of American resolve and military strength. His messaging was clear. The United States would not hesitate to act in defense of its values and allies, and the world was meant to take notice. The Pentagon reinforced this narrative by releasing dramatic footage of the missile launches. The images of precision strikes and advanced technology were meant to underscore US military superiority and reassure the American public of their nation's capabilities. Meanwhile, Nigerian officials offered a different perspective. They deliberately downplayed any religious framing, instead emphasizing the operation's joint nature and its focus on protecting national security for all Nigerians, regardless of faith or background. Nigeria's government was careful to highlight the importance of partnership and national sovereignty. Officials assured the public that Nigeria remained firmly in control, and that the operation was not a surrender of authority to a foreign power, but a collaborative effort. The official message from Abuja was clear: terrorism, not religion, was the true enemy. Nigerian leaders reminded the world that most victims of recent attacks were Muslims, and that the fight was for the safety and unity of all citizens. Nigerian officials also emphasized the extensive collaborative planning and intelligence sharing that had gone into the mission, underscoring the professionalism and mutual respect between the two nations' armed forces. Ultimately, the contrasting narratives reflected each nation's unique domestic priorities, political pressures, and sensitivities around foreign intervention. The story of the mission was as much about shaping perception as it was about the operation itself. In the aftermath, reports confirmed the strikes hit multiple Lakurawa camps, killing many fighters and catching them off guard. The attack shattered the militants' sense of security, triggering a chaotic dispersal as survivors fled toward Niger. This dispersal posed new challenges, as militants could regroup across the border, requiring ongoing vigilance. Both governments emphasized that no civilians were harmed, a crucial factor for legitimacy and local trust. Precision-guided missiles and accurate intelligence kept collateral damage to a minimum. Debris from the missiles was found far from the target zone, startling residents but causing no injuries. The operation's success was measured not just in casualties, but in disrupting the militants' operations and denying them safe haven. The conflict in northern Nigeria is far more complex than a simple religious war. Violence stems from a mix of Islamist terrorism, rampant banditry, resource conflicts, and governance failures. Banditry, driven by ransom kidnappings and cattle rustling, created the lawlessness that allowed groups like Lakurawa to gain a foothold. Resource disputes between farmers and herders, worsened by climate change, are often manipulated by extremists to inflame tensions. Military action alone is not enough. Nigerian officials stress that real solutions require addressing poverty, unemployment, and the lack of state services. Without tackling these root causes, even successful strikes offer only temporary relief. The joint strike was shaped by the Sahel's deteriorating security, especially after Niger's 2023 coup shattered regional cooperation. The coup created a security vacuum along the Nigeria-Niger border, exploited by jihadist groups moving freely across borders. Lakurawa's entrenchment in Sokoto was enabled by this new reality, turning a national problem into a transnational threat. The US had been preparing for intervention, and the strike followed a series of American attacks on ISIS targets abroad. The operation signals a shift in US counterterrorism strategy, moving from support to direct action in Africa. While welcomed by Nigeria, it raises questions about future American involvement in the region. The message: the Sahel's ungoverned spaces are now a global concern. The Christmas Day strike is more than a headline. It reveals the complex challenges facing Nigeria and much of Africa. It's a story of a nation battling threats on multiple fronts, balancing partnership with a superpower, and asserting its own narrative. Simplistic portrayals of religious conflict miss the deeper issues. Most victims are Muslims, and economic desperation drives recruitment into violent groups. Understanding these complexities is essential for real solutions. The operation also highlights African agency. Nigerian intelligence and leadership were central, with US firepower as support. This was a negotiated partnership, not unilateral intervention. The events in Sokoto show both the scale of the challenge and the resilience of a nation fighting for its future.
That brings us to the end of tonight's report. Here at Africa Ascending, our mission remains to illuminate the stories shaping our continent, especially the ones the world rarely sees. For Africa Ascending, I'm Obasi Ndlovu. Stay informed, stay grounded, and stay rising. If you found value in this coverage, consider subscribing so you never miss the stories that matter.